I'm your host and spiritual advisor, Cortney Kane Sides, and today we are going to explore the topic of grief and how grief can be a powerful catalyst to help you move through your own spiritual awakening. I'm going to share with you my personal story, how grief was able to turn into intuition and connection. Today, I'm going to give you 3 practical steps to turn your grief into healing. As a young girl, my mother was diagnosed with ALS, and at that point, I became a caregiver along with my sisters and other family members in the home. That was a story, a tragedy that happened in my life. That was something that really took that sweet innocence from me. I became a caregiver at a very young age, watching my mother's body cripple and her not be able to use her words any longer. Of course, feeling her. I believe that those times in that caregiving actually even helped that intuition that I was already, innately knowing that I was born with. But I was able to start to feel more telepathically with her. Many of us caregivers, when you're with them, you can look at somebody and just simply even know what they need, what their next wants are, or, anything like that. Once my mother passed, I was 15. I remember waking up that morning and needing to go babysit. It was the summertime. My twin sister was in the home, my father was in the home, and my 2 older sisters were gone. I remember waking up to my father coming into the room and saying, CK, that's what he called me. He came in, stood at that doorway and said, CK, your mom passed last night. And my mother was at home with us. We were all caretaking her in our home. And at that moment, I remember thinking, he's kidding. And then, of course, understanding and knowing that my father would never kid about something so serious. I jotted right out of bed, grabbed him, hugged him. And he said, I need you or Whitney to do me a favor. I need you all to take her earrings out of her ears. I ran down to my sister's bedroom. He had not woken her up yet. I woke her up and let her know, which of course was devastating. Told her Dad sat with us. And I said, you know what, Dad, she couldn't do that. So I said, I'll go do this. I went downstairs and sat with my mother. Why is that going to make me cry? I don't want to talk about that. Okay, now I have to pause. So I went downstairs and sat at the edge of her bed, having this sweet little moment with my mother, of course, riddled with pain and hurt and loss and grief at a depth that I don't know that I can still even explain today. But taking her earrings out, there was something so sacred about this moment with her. That is a sacred gift, my friend, when we can hold space for the people that we love in the moments at the end of their life, or at those moments when we're by their side and having to let them go. Those earrings meant so much to me. I remember coming back upstairs and being with my sister and my father, and then of course the insanity of, the funeral home and all of those things set in. And as many of you already know, that those days after are such a blur. And there's so many things that I don't remember, and there's so many things that still are embedded in my mind. From that day of her passing, there was this empty hole within my soul, within my body. And at that point, it's pure grief, it's pain. And it just felt like that empty, dark space that I, in that moment, felt would never be refilled. And I remember after her passing being really nervous, really scared to even sleep by myself. I had asked my father, who was a great man, and asked him if I could sleep on my mother's side of the bed in their bedroom, because I just simply did not want to be alone. When I did that, it was this 7 days after her passing, which is just very interesting, by the way, that she came to me in a dream, in a visit. And I was walking through the home in this dream, and I had walked down the stairs and into the living room. And when I walked into the living room, which at that time was her makeshift medical bedroom, her medical bed, and all of this, in the dream, I walked into this room and it was awake. My family, my extended family, they were all in this room, and my mother was sitting in her wheelchair, her hands still crippled, her voice still affected by ALS. And nobody even notices that she's there and she's alive and she's present. She rose up her hands and she said, "I'm okay." And she said, "Give me a hug." And I went in to hug her. And once I hugged her, she hugged me so tight. That next morning when I woke up, that depth of pain, that empty darkness that was within me was no longer there. I felt as much peace at 15 as you can feel with your mother passing, right? I felt this shift. I felt something. I told my father I had this dream, and he listened and was so just loving, and that was that. And I told my Aunt Sharon about 2 weeks later, who was her sister, and I shared with her the dream, and she said, "Cortney, I don't really believe that was a dream." She said, "I really believe that your mother came to you." And when she said that, I thought, well, you're crazy in my mind. I did not, of course, say that out loud, but I just thought, that's crazy. But when she said it, I had a peace, I had a hope, I had a want that, maybe that there was something to that. Maybe that was true. Now, up until that point, I had always had a deep knowing of energy, of people. I could feel the history of their life, of their lifetimes. I could feel history of homes, of places, of locations. And I knew things that honestly I thought everybody else could tune into as well. I never really understood that was something of a heightened sense, a heightened gift or ability until later in life. But this ability with the dream, with my mother coming in, it was something different. But I was also a good Southern Baptist girl, Christian girl, had skepticism. And I, in my deepest of heart, so badly wanted that to be true. However, knowing that that's crazy, that's something that is probably not real, right? Well, from that day forward, I started to write down all of the intuition, all of the dreams, all of the notions of confirmation, signs and symbols that I was receiving from her, dating them all along the way. And doing that as a skeptic, by the way, doing that is in wanting to almost scientifically prove that this is crazy, this is nuts. And I'm telling you that every person from that moment forward, every person that I had lost in my life started to come up and show up in a dream for me. I know many of you listening or watching this have had those experiences with your own loved ones or, other friends or something like that. I want you just to take note of that and just ask questions, be curious. In my process, I was realizing that there was something peculiar to that. Those dreams were different. They were to a different degree, a different depth. But all of those years, I just wrote them down because I wanted to have proof. I wanted to have proof. Through years of numbing the pain, through years of in my 20s drinking and doing things that were more so harming me because I wanted to feel alive again, right? Like many of us do. I went through all of those different experiences that I don't regret, actually. All of those experiences that sometimes hurt me made me who I am today. They got me to a point where I knew that I had to do something to tune into those gifts and abilities, to tune into healing, to go into even therapy, into connecting with those guides and angels and understanding that, yes, those loved ones were with me. Now, it was many years later when I finally got the confirmation for the mediumship in my life. I had finally moved away from the town that I was living in, so that, whenever I had had a dream and had heard of the person passing, once they came to me in that dream, I was thinking, well, my brain must be firing, right? I must be just understanding that they're coming to me, and I'm either making that up, or the brain is just simply doing what it does, right? But it wasn't until I'd moved away to Phoenix and was living there for a bit of time, and I had a friend's mother come to me in a dream, in another visit. And in that dream, she came to me and she said very casually, "Hey, how are you? I love you. I'd grown up with this woman." She also gave me a hug and she said, "Cortney, do me a favor and tell my children," she listed their names, and she said, "Tell them I love them. And please tell them that I'm okay." Very similar to that dream I had had with my own mother. I woke up that next morning, told my husband, and he just simply listened. I called a sister of mine on the way to work the next morning because I knew that those dreams had depth. At this time, I knew that that was my intuition. I still didn't have that massive confirmation and proof that I wanted personally just yet. Now, I had with all the psychic information, the intuitive information, the signs from guides and angels, but this mediumship, this part that was so sacred because of the loss that I had experienced in my own life in so many occasions. When I called my sister, I told her who the person was in the dream, and she said, "Oh my gosh, Cortney, she was killed yesterday in a car wreck." I sat there and took that deep breath in and cried for my friend and was shocked. But inside, because I had not heard of the passing, the drama of the passing, because I didn't know that there was an illness or that the wreck had happened, nothing, right? I'd finally gained the confirmation that I needed to know that, in fact, my Aunt Sharon was right. Cortney, your mother really did come to you in that dream. Now, many of us have our own skepticism and we have our own need for validation. And I'm telling you that if you start to follow through and show up for yourself in your own healing, in your own grieving, in your own understanding, and being able to reach out to those that can help you move through those things, such a beautiful thing to do is to not ignore your own heart and your own healing that needs to take place. When we are brave enough to do that, I'm telling you, my friend, you will find connection to your loved ones on the other side, connection to your heart, and connection to your soul. This now leads me to those 3 actionable steps. These are just 3 of many that can help you move through grief and into taking ownership of your own connection with those loved ones on the other side, because you do have the power to connect with them. You've not lost anything. You've lost their physical connection, but they are still with you. And through these steps, I hope that you find connection with them. Number 1, it's acknowledge and honor your emotions. Creating space to fully experience that grief without judgment is key. Journaling, meditating, or speaking with a trusted friend or confidant, even a professional, can always help you process your emotions. Now, why do we do this? Grief can unlock hidden emotions that, when processed, reveal deeper truths about your needs and values and even your life's purpose. Number 2 is reflect on meaning and legacy. Taking the time to reflect on what your loved one's life meant to you and how their impact might inspire your path forward, and even consider what values or lessons you want to embody or share. Why this is important is this reflection can transform this pain into purpose by connecting their life with your journey of growth. Number 3, take small aligned steps. Channel your grief into acts of service, creativity, or even self-expression. Volunteer, create art, or engage in activities that bring meaning to your loss. Purpose often grows from giving and contributing to others, whether by sharing your story, supporting somebody else in their grief, or creating something beautiful out of pain. The way that I did this was I started to finger paint. I started to finger paint the emotion and the energies that I was feeling that I could not quite express. It was hard for me to understand those emotions, but once I felt them and could almost see them in color, I could express them on a canvas with my hands, whether that was in pain, in rage, in hurt, in anger, or in beauty and love. It always moved from darkness into beauty. Grief holds answers to our soul's evolution and is such a necessary process to turn this pain into light. If you're ready to go deeper, I invite you to join my VIP Inner Circle for exclusive healing content. Book a private session to connect directly to your loved ones on the other side. My goal is to help you understand your loved ones are with you every step of this way, and they have a front row seat to your life. I invite you